It's here. It's finally here, baby. It's here. We are here for week one, a 13-game slate. It's so sweet. Oh, man, I'm ready to do some DFS with you guys today. Welcome on in, everybody. I'm Chase Vernon. I am joined by Bo. Bo over there from Fantasy Pros. You guys can find all of his written content with Betting Pros. Bo, what's going on, man? How are you?
It's been a while, Chase. I mean, we used to have a show way back in the day. I reminisce all the time about the year 2020 when the whole world was shut down. But you and I were doing the DFS streets dirty. Like we were cashing checks, snapping necks for that whole season.
Dude, it was actually fun, right? I would sit there and I'd be bartending, and then I'd get off my bartending shift because we had to close early because of COVID, and then we would come to a DFS show right after that, and it was a blast. It was so much fun.
Yeah, let's bring back some good vibes from those days because there's lots of them.
There are, and I'm very, very excited to kick this show off. It is week one for the Big Tilt, everybody. This is our second episode. If you guys missed the one with Mark Garcia, make sure you go check it out last week, of course. But we are here to give you guys fantasy advice. Like Bo said, snap necks, cash checks. So are you ready to kick this episode off, Bo? You ready to rock and roll?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. But man, we got a few different things to talk about. The way this show is now going to be structured is we are going to give you one person that we want every single lineup. Well, maybe not every single lineup, but we want in most lineups overall. We want to make sure that we're cashing in on this dude. We're talking about 30, 40% ownership shares. These guys are the guys that you want to build your lineups around. Then we're going to go through and we're going to talk about one guy that we want to avoid, or a handful of guys we want to try and avoid for week one. They're trap picks, somebody that could be at a major discount, right? But, I mean, he's not going to give you any fantasy production anyways. And then we're going to finish it up, and we're going to go over some sleepers that we really love, some guys that you can sneak into your lineups that most people won't be playing but can get you to that milli maker winner. Man, Bo, I'm ready for this. I'm ready.
Me too. This is exciting because 13 games, you have a lot of players to go through, but there's only a few that I actually love, like with all my heart.
With all your heart, man. I actually, the ones that you have are pretty good, so I cannot wait to discuss those. Before you do, if you guys joined the Wake and Take show with Jason Allwine, it was a killer. We ended up cashing in on the majority of the guys we picked. We told you all to avoid Kadarius Toney because he was too expensive. We told you all to go out there and cash in on Josh Reynolds. That was my number one pick. Josh Reynolds could not fail, especially at his pricing. We cashed in on that. And, of course, we gave you some picks. Patrick Mahomes was a lock, of course, right? Jared Goff still wasn't bad because in order for the offense to operate, it went around him. And then David Montgomery, baby, over the other options at running back was just the route to go. Of course, Jahmyr Gibbs was a popular pick. We wanted to fade him last night. That was the route you went. So we are here to dive into this week one slate to give you guys some tips, tricks. Make sure y'all make some money on that. So I want to talk to you, Bo. I want to roll it out before we start building these lineups, right? Because we're going to be building lineups all night long. I want to go through and I want to talk about some of the pricing, right? Because we're going to see certain players, whether it's CMC, Devonta Adams, like even Justin Jefferson, they're typically going to get up to be around 9,500, 10K, and they're not quite there yet. So are there any players where you really love the pricing going forward for week one?
Yeah, actually, I think the quarterbacks are pretty appropriate. I was kind of surprised that there weren't any like, oh, don't go there at quarterback. You can get away with building just about any stack structure you want if you're feeling good about it. I'm probably going to err on the side of going with leverage plays at quarterback because that's typically where you want to go anyway. But there's no cost prohibitive option at quarterback that says, oh, absolutely not. I'm not like outright fading any of them if I'm feeling pretty good about it. Of course, there's some guys with tougher matchups, but they tend to be a little bit cheaper. Like you can get them for a couple thousand less. So I'm looking at that going, oh, okay, I'm okay at quarterback if I find a nice leverage spot. At running back, that's where I start to see a lot of people that are I just want to fade outright or play very little of because you have a lot of guys that are going to be taking it slow week one. We saw this last night where some of these guys who are going to be good options all season long, they're not really going to be getting their full workload right off the bat. And some of these younger players are of note here, and others have just new systems that they're a part of that they might not be a full go in that system quite yet. Namely Austin Eckler. He's the one guy in this very, very high ticket, high over under Miami LA Chargers game that I'm probably going to fade at cost.
Bo, you're giving the people too much insight into what we're going to talk about, man. But no, I love that. I absolutely love that. A guy who actually kind of hope I've been talking about a little bit on Twitter. You guys can go check me out over there at FF_intervention. I've been talking a little bit about how I want Ramondre Stevenson to kind of fail in week 1, right? He has a tough matchup up against the Philadelphia Eagles. He's coming down with a stomach virus, I think is what the word on the street was, right? So maybe he gives a little bit of snap share up to Ezekiel Elliott, right? Only plays on 60% of the snaps or so, maybe 50%. And then he goes into Miami where the Patriots are going to have to pass the ball, and he goes and sees 10 receptions while also seeing lower ownership and a lower pricing across the board. So I'm very, very excited for Ramondre Stevenson for week 2, but that might be a guy that I'm trying to fade for week 1. Now, let's go ahead and let's discuss a little bit about ownership percentages. How much do you care about him? Are there certain guys this week that you're like, oh man, I got to fade this dude because he's going to be way too highly owned?
It's kind of early. Like I do think there's gonna be some swings here, especially on a 13 game slate. I'm worried about it less than I would on a 10 or 11 game slate. That's when you really have to pay attention to it. But with the expanded slate, I don't really see that there's going to be too many guys that are overly chalky. Like you can spread it out pretty evenly here this week. That's kind of the beauty of week 1 is nobody knows anything about anything this week. And we'll all learn together, like good or bad. We're all going to learn together about week 1. But if you have been reading the tea leaves, watching preseason action, kind of getting the hang of how all of these coaching changes, depth chart changes are moving along, you can kind of point out which guys are kind of over-owned compared to what their workload is going to look like. That's where I'm at here is specifically, I don't have anybody that's going to be overly chalky for me to fade completely based on that. But based on price, I'm definitely paying attention to that because that's kind of what I'm looking at now is like points per dollar. I want the guys I want to play this week on a big slate. You're gonna have no trouble being different from everybody, but you still have to score more points than your opponents to win any money.
No, I absolutely love that. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna pull up this DraftKings, share screen real quick, and we're gonna get down to building some of these lineups. And we're going to start out the lineups, right? We're going to start them out just by talking about some of the different aspects, right, that we can be looking at for these actual lineups. Let me actually change this banner real quick as well. So, Bo, just going off of what you've seen thus far, and we wanted to talk about who are those guys that you want to lock into your lineups this week.
Like I said before, a little bit, I want a piece of that Chargers-Dolphins game because if we're on a 13-game slate, I don't think we're going to have too much focus on one game stack over the other. And I think that's an edge, is find the game that's going to score a bunch of points and lock and load. Like, do we have two very potent passing attacks going up against one another with okay defenses, but not great defenses? I'm thinking full steam ahead with either a Herbert stack or a Tua stack, and then even run back a receiver from the other side just to get two or three guys from that game locked in where we have lots of upside in that. I think that game's going over 60 points total, and it should be something that we attack right off the bat with a stack. That's where I would start most of my lineups this week is just getting after the easy points.
Yeah, and I mean, last year we saw Mike Williams dominate Xavier Howard on the three targets that he saw on the outside. I mean, completely dominate him, but really they were attacking that slot, right? Cater, the dude over there, they were dominating, like just going at that slot guy time and time and time again. I mean, Keenan Allen saw a tremendous amount of targets up against Cater over there in the slot. And then they went with, who was it? DeAndre Carter, right? That just saw targets up against the slot. And then they put Austin Eckler in the slot, and they targeted Austin Eckler in the slot. Cater was literally like a rag doll that entire game, just getting abused over and over and over again. Why would they change that strategy? I know it's a different offensive coordinator, but why would they change that strategy when it worked for him so well last season?
Well, they can go after the same guy. They can go after that same guy with more verticality, which Kellen Moore's system, they're going to spend more time with Herbert letting letting the receivers get further down the field. The Lombardi system was a lot closer to the line of scrimmage, so you saw a little more volume at the running back, the tight end, the slot receiver positions. And what I'm hearing is that Mike Williams is going to be running a lot more out of the slot than we've seen him in the past, which is great for him because he's a large body, he's very athletic, and he can run routes better than people think. Like I've seen, obviously he's a big X receiver that runs the boundary, runs the verticals really well, contested catch, almost unstoppable. I think that it'll be good for him to run some more intermediate routes in this concept. And in a game that's going to score a lot of points, I love his size and athleticism against this defense, which is a little bit undersized. Miami's defense is smart. They're athletic, but they're undersized, and Mike Williams at 5,700 is too damn cheap for his upside. And that's the one guy that I really, really love on this slate as a wide receiver. Is just too cheap for what he can do.
All right, I'm going to give you a guy that I think is tremendously underpriced, and we're only going to see him climb throughout the season, right? And whether that's because of spike weeks that we see from him, or it's because he's just consistently putting up points on the ground, that's Anthony Richardson. I mean, his price is far too cheap. I think he's sitting there at 5,600. His price is far too cheap to roll out for week one. I don't know what they were doing over there in Jacksonville. I mean, in DraftKings, like pricing them that cheap. The Jacksonville Jaguars last year faced 3 mobile quarterbacks. On the ground, they ended up giving up 9.8 points to 1, just on the ground, rushing, right? 8.9, and then 19.7 to Daniel Jones on the ground, who had over 100 yards rushing against them, right?
Yikes.
I mean, they have a lot of speed, right, on that defense. There's a lot of speed coming off the edge. But guess what speed does when you end up loading the box and blitzing off the edge? It creates gaps. It creates paths for you to run through. And that's where you get the chunk yard gains, right? His over-under for rushing yards is like 47.5 right now, which is ridiculous, right? You take the over on that because he could get that in 2 or 3 runs. He could get it 1 run, to be honest with you, but he's probably going to get it in 2 or 3 runs. He's going to have 10 rushing attempts this game. I mean, he's going to put up probably close to 60, 70, 100 plus rushing yards potentially if he can get a couple chunk gains. So I am all over Anthony Richardson at his price. JK Dobbins is another guy up against Houston who I want to take a shot on. It's going to create massive rushing lanes for him to run through. I don't care if they're passing more. He's going to be involved in the passing game. I also love JK Dobbins. Is there one more person that you love, Bo, that you want to build your lineups around before we start building this one?
Actually, yeah. This whole thing about your guy from the DMV, Antonio Gibson. Yes. Antonio Gibson in the Bieniemy system, that's like getting a younger, bigger, faster Jerick McKinnon, who also played wide receiver in college. It seems like Bieniemy might see this number 24 in the crimson and gold and go, we might have a job for you, Antonio Gibson. I mean, all respect to Scott Turner, but he didn't use Antonio Gibson the right way.
It was so sad.
His first 2 seasons, they still didn't use him the right way. He was still top 10 in fantasy running backs both years.
Oh, Gibson is in
all
line.
The misuse. Yeah. And I believe he's under 6. He's under 6K also. So we have 3 guys now who are under 6K who have immense upside, who are also not too overly highly owned so far. I mean, we want to keep our voices down around here, but I like where we're starting this off.
I love that, man. I love that. So let's go ahead and let's build some of these lineups. By the way, Antonio Gibson is only at, what did it say? 5,200. Yeah, it's getting even sexier by the moment. All right, let's build this up. Let's get this lineup started. Where do we want to start with these lineups? Do you normally start by getting the running backs, the defenses, the guys that you want, the stacks? How do you start, Bo?
I start with stacks most of the time, but sometimes that includes a running back defense stack. But overall, I start with stacking.
Where would you like to start with this one? By the way, we have $69 to play with tonight. So I just love the amount that I have in my bank right now after winning, $40-50 last night on 20. So I'll take that.
That's a really nice amount.
69. Let's go. All right, Bo, where do you want to start? Who do you want to start with or which range do you want to discuss?
Let's go with I like a $12 single entry. That's kind of a good place to start, or a $9, or are we talking about players?
No, let's just start with players. I already got the guys up there. We'll go to a $12 single entry next.
Okay. Let's go with Gibson and the Commanders defense because I believe they're playing Arizona. Is that right?
Yep, they are. And that's probably going to be the chalkiest defense on the slate. But if we can get a little weird with the rest of our lineup, that's cool. Yeah. We got a 13-game slate. We don't have to worry about the chalk that comes with that Commanders defense. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go with Gibby and the Commanders defense.
I'm leery about chalky defenses only when they're at the very top of the price structure. Like if you get an expensive defense that's got just a great matchup, you almost want to spend down to get leverage just by a matter of fact. But Washington's defense in the middle of the pack in the pricing scheme, I'm okay with that because you're not hindering the rest of your build by putting a chalk defense in there.
No, I completely agree with you. Now, I do want to attack the game that you discussed with Miami and the Chargers. I do think it will be somewhat of the highest, owned game overall. But something does make me a little bit hesitant. Although they ended up torching the Miami's defense last year, that Miami's defense is a lot better this year. I mean, this is the top secondary unit according to PFF. With the addition of Jalen Ramsey. However, Jalen Ramsey's out. So we could see a little bit more of a wiggle room and opportunity over here. So do you want to start with like a Chargers stack and attack the Miami side, or would you rather start with the Miami side and attack the stack on that?
I like the Miami stack almost a little bit better because what we saw last year was Miami was the most efficient offense in the NFL when Tua was healthy. Last time I checked, Tua's healthy. He's got 2 of the fastest guys in the league. Actually, now he's got 3 of the fastest guys in the league on his offense. So I would love to play a Tua stack with either Waddle or Tyreek. I kind of fall towards Tyreek because Waddle's been a little banged up lately, but maybe he's the leverage pick that we were looking for because by all indications Waddle's playing, and that's kind of where you kind of want to go. Like I'll have a mixture of different stacks in this game just to get exposure to it, up to and including a double stack with Tua, Hill, and Waddle.
So Tua, right? He has a 60% less chance of hitting his projected point output if Tyreek Hill does not get a touchdown. So if we're going with a stack on this one, I'd like to lean more towards Tyreek just for that reason. Plus, I think the Chargers defense is actually really good in single coverage, and I think that they're able to shut down Waddle, but trying to get Tyreek Hill in single coverage is going to create a little bit more of an issue. So I think that Tyreek Hill is actually the route to go. And then you want to run it back with Mike Williams over there running out of the slot.
Damn right.
That's your lock. That's your dude, right?
That's my dude.
All right, we're going to throw in Mike Williams. So we have Tua Tagovailoa for those listening. We have Tua Tagovailoa, Antonio Gibson, Tyreek Hill, Mike Williams, and the Commanders defense. We have about $5K left per person to spend. So where are we going from here, Bo? Do you think we should go with like maybe a cheaper guy that we can use as like a flyer? I don't want to give away our sleepers yet, so we can't go that low. But is there a guy that we could kind of mix in here that might need to get some points up? I mean, Rondale Moore, for example. Rondale Moore in a PPR league where they're talking about Marquise Brown, right, potentially being questionable. I mean, Rondale Moore is going to have to get some points up there, but he doesn't have to score a touchdown because he gets so many receptions and so many targets playing in the area field that he does, right? He could end up seeing 10 receptions this game. Greg Dortch did it. Why can't Rondale Moore?
Because he's not Greg Dortch. Yeah, I don't like Rondale that much, but at 4,200, that's a really nice price. If we're in that sub 5K range, I'd almost rather go up a little bit to Brandon Ayuk against a Pittsburgh defense that's really inexperienced on the secondary and won't get any fanfare. That's one guy that I can see Brock Purdy finding because he found him all last year when he took over. Brandon Ayuk was the wide receiver 7 overall from week 6 on last year, and I can see him eating up Joey Porter Jr. this whole Sunday. That would be my too cheap.
Too cheap. It's too cheap. Like 4,900, that's too cheap. He should be up there around like the $6,500 range minimum. And he's sitting there at 4,900.
He will be. Not this week, though.
I'm not even a big Ayuk guy. I'm just saying, like, that's way too cheap to have Brandon Ayuk guy. So that leaves us with about 5,500. That didn't give us much more wiggle room, but we have guys that can still fit in that range at the running back position. I kind of want to go that route just to see what we have left over. And I'll save this take that I have for the next segment about guys we want to fade. But I do think that AJ Dillon could be a sneaky good pick to start out up against a Chicago defense that is almost non-existent, right? I think that could be a sneaky one where it gives us a little bit of area that we can maneuver around in terms of the salary. Is there anybody that you like?
Yeah, actually, there's a couple here. We have Jerome Ford of the Browns, 4,200 is dirt cheap, and Nick Chubb's not going to get a whole lot of work. This is a team that lost Kareem Hunt and did nothing to replace him, and they added a body at the end of camp, but Jerome Ford kind of dealt with a hamstring over training camp. He's a full bill of health for this game. He's a very good receiver. He's a very explosive playmaker, and I believe he's going to be the Kareem Hunt this year. And everybody's like, "Oh, the Bengals' run defense is good." Well, it was good last year. What have they done in the offseason to address it? Nothing. I have a feeling about Jerome Ford at 4,200 in a Millie Maker setup. I'm not playing him in cash games, nothing like that. But him and Sean Tucker of the Buccaneers is another target of mine down in the low fours for running backs if we're looking to save some money.
I do like Jerome Ford here because we do have a chalkier defense. That defense was probably going to be the highest owned player on the entire slate. But I do love what they're bringing up in the comments section. Nicholas McElroy, said Purdy, CMC, Ayuk stack with a Pickens run back. That's interesting. The Chargers build with Jaden Reed. Boofy, you're getting too far ahead in the episode, okay? You gotta wait, okay? And then Dobbins with the Ravens D. I actually do like that stack as well. I think that's very interesting up against a defense. So maybe we can build on Dobbins after this build. We'll do a Dobbins build following that. And then, hey, Boofy, you're just getting too far ahead on us, man. Like, I don't know if you stole our show sheet or what, but you're on point with some of your takes. So let's go ahead and let's go to the tight end position, and then we'll pick a flex after that. We got us some space, man. So are we going to pay up at the tight end? Are we going to go with TJ Hawkinson since he might be the only healthy tier 1 tight end for this week? That Tampa Bay team has not been good up against tight ends for years.
Yeah, they won't be good this year either. I don't mind it. I think that by process of elimination, he might be ultra chalky by the time we lock on Sunday. Dallas Goedert's up there. I'm actually very, very keen on Kyle Pitts down at 4,500. For some reason, he's way underpriced. We're talking about a 1,000-yard receiver who got hurt last year. His quarterback couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, but he is their vertical receiver in Atlanta, period. He's the only guy they stretch the field with. And when I look at the Carolina defense, they're aggressive. They go after the line of scrimmage wholeheartedly. They're going to try everything in their power to stop Bijan Robinson. They're probably not going to do a very good job of it. But the play action pass, Desmond Ridder is going to stretch the field. He's going to start throwing bombs. He doesn't have anybody that is a real vertical threat except for Kyle Pitts. And I have a feeling that if we're looking for upside, Kyle Pitts at 4,500 just makes a lot of sense. And that is a homer pick. I've been on Kyle Pitts since he was at Florida, but
Bo, I think we have our first disagreement of the show. I'm not on Kyle Pitts this week because Jeremy Chin moved to become the nickelback, right? And Jeremy Chin is actually elite at shutting down tight ends. That's pretty much why they moved him, because they knew that they would end up having to face Juwan Johnson, Kyle Pitts, Cameron Brate can just sit on the side, but they at least knew that they had to cover that. So they moved Jeremy Chin into the slot. They think that he really fits that mold well. Thanks, Bentley, for ruining the show. But I do think that we are looking at a situation where Kyle Pitts could end up facing some tougher coverage, which is why I actually like Drake London for this week. But
I like that too.
Is there another guy that we can compromise with at the tight end position? Is there anybody else that you see and you might like a little bit more? I mean, Higbee, right? He might be chalky, but he's got Seattle, and Seattle's been terrible against the tight end for years as well.
Well, Higbee's going to max you out at 11 points, and that's never a DFS thing.
Not unless we rewind back like 2 or 3 years ago to
that one game where he scored. Yeah, that one game, or those 2 games that he scored multiple touchdowns. But yeah, that was a long time ago, and this is not the same offense. Evan Ingram would be my compromise. He's a top 2 option in that offense for Jacksonville. They're going to score pretty easily against Indy's defense, and at least he has upside. Higbee has 0 upside ever. He's going to score between 8 and 11 points every week. So in a cash game, do the Higbee thing. You'll never see me play Higbee in a tournament. Sorry, not sorry.
I'll take it, man. I'll take it. Let's go ahead and let's hop on to our last guy. We're left with 7,600. So we got a plethora of
nice.
Dolores. Do we want to upgrade from Jerome Ford and pivot down, or do you want to stick with your Jerome Ford pick?
I mean, I think we can upgrade. That's there's some good guys in that low sevens range. So if we want to upgrade Jerome Ford to something a little bit more pricey with some more hope behind it.
Yeah, I mean, even if we pivot down, I mean, the 5K range, we came up with a handful of players that are worth in 5K range. JK Dobbins is sitting there at 6,600. And, Houston defense is going to be tough to pass on. We have Calvin Ridley if we wanted to run some more Jacksonville Jaguars out there, if we think it's going to be a blowout. Terry McLaurin up against Arizona. He's going to face, Marco Wilson, right? The dude, the fourth round cornerback that is, I mean, that.
Hey, all I gotta say to Marco is good luck, buddy.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bloodbath over there. Is there a guy that you want to pivot down to the 6K range? So maybe we can go up to the 5K range with Jerome Ford. Chris Olave is a great one up against Tennessee.
Yes, I love Olave this week.
Oh my God, he's too cheap.
Olave.
He's too cheap.
Just like Ayuk. It's like, what are they doing with these stud wide receivers that just don't get enough respect? I mean, it's just. DraftKings occasionally will just not respect a player all season long, where they'll never upgrade the price no matter how good they do, and that's fine with us because it works in our favor.
It's a free square.
Yeah, it's like a loss leader.
All right, so we're now looking at the 5K range for the running back position. We got AJ Dillon in here, right? We got Khalil Herbert, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of Jamaal Williams, but we'll talk about that here in a second. We already got a Washington running back, but to be honest with you, they might just run it down their throat, and we might see 40 carries between the two. Meanwhile, Antonio Gibson is going to house the reception. I don't know if we go that far. That's a little bit of a stretch, but is there a running back that you like in this range, in the 5K range, early 5K, late 4K?
I like Dillon the way you do, because I do think that the pathway for the Packers to beat the Bears with their offense in shambles with all the injuries is going to be to run the football. And Jones will get his, but Dillon is too cheap compared to how expensive Jones is. And that's more of a 55-45 split. It always has been. And AJ Dillon had a bad season last year. But it wasn't all his fault. We had a quarterback with a broken wrist half the year. The wide receivers couldn't get open, so the boxes were loaded. I have a feeling that the Bears, they can load the box all they want. They're not stopping the run game. That's going to be a big point of contention, and a big point of leverage is a running back at 5,200 that virtually nobody's going to have, that is going to get a lot of goal line looks. I like AJ Dillon in that spot, especially when we have everybody else lined up with a ton of upside. Watch AJ Dillon rumble for 100 yards and score one touchdown, and you hit your nut like that.
Woo! Let's go. That's a free square in itself, especially up against the Chicago defense. So let's enter this ticket in, Bo. We are in the money for that one. We're in, and let's build another lineup. But before we do, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Oh, I see it every day online, every single day. Hey, that looks like a great fantasy team in an 8-team league. Oh, wish I could be in a league with you, right? Well, guess what? Now you can respond with, sure, let's play on Bettle. That's the beauty of this platform. This new Bettle platform standardizes all position scoring. So you just load your team and you challenge your friend, your colleague, Twitter troll, and you can browse other teams and issue challenges. Bettle is revolutionizing fantasy football. And with code UNDERWORLD, you get a $100 instant deposit match plus a free $10. So even if you deposit $20, you get $50. Think about that. So go to Bettle.com. The code is UNDERWORLD. Bettle.com. The code is UNDERWORLD. Or click a link in the description. It's fun to be right.
It's fun to be right? It's fun. It's fun to be right.
That's why we play DFS, really, because we love being right.
It's such a good feeling when you just look at all your lineups, like this week. So for the Thursday night matchups, I only entered about 5 or so entries. Just have some fun with it, right? But when it comes to like these full game slates, I'll put in about 100 to 150, and it's fun when you just see all those green dots going across your screen. You know that you won and you did the right pick. So that's why we are here to give you that advice and help you out. Now, I did enter into a $12 contest, which we're in. This is a single entry contest for you, Bo. This is where things get really interesting, right? Because things get a little bit more chalky because you feel like you don't have to get different because you're not dealing with a bunch of people that are going to enter in to 150 different lineups, right? So we get a little bit more wiggle room in terms of what we can do versus what we have to do. Now, let's talk about guys that you don't want on your team this week. Give me one guy that you do not want anywhere close to your team this week and tell us why.
So I'll give you the reason why before I give you the name. I don't want any Las Vegas Raiders this week because I don't think they're going to score a single touchdown against the Denver Broncos.
What?
Not a single one. I think they might even get shut out.
Whoa!
I would call for a shutout if it weren't for their all-world kicker, Carlson. But since Carlson's on the field, I'll give them some 6 to 9 points. Bentley agrees with me.
He's all in.
Yeah, so I am fully off of Devontae Adams at 7,900. I love the player. Shout out NorCal. He's from East Palo Alto. One of the greatest wide receivers to ever play the game. But Jimmy Garoppolo is his quarterback. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have the biggest regression year he's ever had. We've probably ever seen from a quarterback. He's leaving that perfect little climate-controlled snow globe of the Shanahan system. He's in the McDaniel system, which is okay, I guess, if you like Shanahan from Wish.com. It's going to be really ugly this season for the Las Vegas Raiders. They're my dark horse to get the Caleb Williams acquisition at the end of the year. I don't think the Raiders are going to win more than 3 games this season. And it starts with Denver absolutely laying the lumber on them at Mile High this week. So no Devontae Adams, no Josh Jacobs. Don't give me any Raiders this week. I just don't feel it.
Damn, Bo coming in with the hot sauce take, right? Bo's hot sauce over there. Make sure y'all go check that out. But man, that is a crazy take. The dark horse to get Caleb Williams, and I love it. That'd be sick if he landed there and Devontae Adams is still there and he's able to come up with Devontae Adams for a couple years. Just saying, that would be dope.
That would be ideal.
Oh, that would be so sick. I love that. Oh my God, man! But that's a hell of a take right there. I love it, man. Let's go on to my guys real quick. Jamaal Williams, right? I loved him. I've been tweeting about him for the first couple weeks. I really loved like targeting him, right? But then I'm starting to think about it. I'm looking at the opportunities that the Titans allow to the quarterbacks. How I think it's been 14 out of 17 weeks last year. They allowed the quarterback to see over 32 attempts or more. You just can't run against him, right? Jeffrey Simmons is a freaking monster. Yes. And then I'm going to look at the ownership percentages, right? And the ownership percentages have Jamaal Williams as the second highest running back on this slate, only behind Austin Eckler. I could not get behind that. And it makes sense why he's the owner. Like, he's cheap, right? Like, he's inexpensive, but like, he doesn't see a ton of rushing attempts. He might get some goal line touches, but is Jeffrey Simmons going to let him get in the end zone? Hell no. That's an absolute monster over there for the Tennessee Titans, and why pretty much the main reason why you can't run against them. So I think that the Saints are going to get forced to pass. I think they're going to try and run. I just don't think they're going to do it very well. And you're going to see a lot of opportunities for, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, even Rashid Shaheed to put up some fantasy points. It's not that I love any one of those guys outside of Olave, because I don't think that the offense is going to operate. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game to an extent. But I do 100% want to fade Jamaal Williams at his ownership percentage and his cost. We talked about A.J. Dillon, how I thought he was a steal essentially going right there. And if you're somebody that wanted to go play, right, like when you're looking around, you're like, oh, man, I want to sit there and I want to play Jamaal Williams. Well, you have other options that you can go to, but most people aren't going to be playing him, because you look at Antonio Gibson. Well, he's got to compete with Brian Robinson. Jamaal Williams doesn't have anybody in that range. A.J. Dillon, oh man, he's behind Aaron Jones. Zeke Elliott, oh, he's got Rondre Stevens. Like, there's other options that you can go to, but they all have red flags. And Jamaal Williams doesn't have one in terms of his workload. The red flag exists on the other side of the field. It exists on that defense, and that's Jeffrey Simmons shutting them down. So I'm fading Jamaal Williams. My other, you know what? I'm not even going to go into my other fade. I want to hear your other fade right now, because your other fade's pretty mind-blowing that you actually went here. Go ahead and enlighten us.
I don't know why it's such a big deal that I'm fading another guy that's highly priced. And I mean, it's for me, it just seems I don't know why you're thinking this is such a big deal. But
because he's the highest scoring player at his position that we've seen since what, Adrian Peterson's heyday.
Yeah. Yes, overall, yeah, we're looking at body of work. Of course, you don't fade Christian McCaffrey, but at cost and with a healthy Elijah Mitchell, that's a huge difference here. We're talking about a team that's facing a very tough front seven. The 49ers are facing the Steelers. The Steelers are known for the front seven. It's a stout front seven. Elijah Mitchell's presence in that offense knocked Christian McCaffrey's usage down by 40% last year. And Mitchell's not healthy very often. So obviously we take that with a grain of salt. Like, how long is Elijah Mitchell going to stay healthy? I don't know either. But he's healthy right now. He's on the field right now. He's a very serviceable running back. They're going to have entire series where Elijah Mitchell's the lead guy. McCaffrey will be on the bench for a whole series at a time in this game. And if I'm going to spend up almost $9,000, I am fading that guy because I think the 49ers are going to spread it out. They're going to spread the wealth, which is what Shanahan always does. If health permits, he's not going to lean on one guy over the other. And for me, McCaffrey is just too expensive for his limited upside with Elijah Mitchell in the game. And then we saw it all last year where when Mitchell was out, McCaffrey was awesome. We loved every bit of it because we're talking about the most efficient player in the league the last 4 or 5 years, period. But I just don't see it this week. This week, for me, McCaffrey's a fade.
Yeah, it makes sense. And there's no reason to run him out there and put a ton of workload on him, at that point. So I can get on board with that. I'm actually fading Ja'Marr Chase. We've seen the 2 games that Ja'Marr Chase has played up against the Browns since coming in the league. Denzel Ward has also played. Denzel Ward got taken off the injury report yesterday. Now, Ja'Marr Chase has still gotten like 13 and 15 targets, I believe, up against the Browns when he's played them. But he has like a catch rate of like 60% or around 60% in those 2 games because Denzel Ward is so freaking good while defending him. Now, in one of those games, he still put up 119 yards and a touchdown, right? He ended up getting lucky. I think he ended up catching like a screen pass and taking it out. That's not going to be the case every single time they play. The other game, he only had, I think, 4.2 fantasy points or something along those lines. It is not a good situation for Ja'Marr Chase when you're sitting there with a 60% catch rate because Denzel Ward is all over you. Could Ja'Marr Chase absolutely go off? Yes, but at his cost, he's somebody that I'm trying to fade and get away from. We'll see if I'm right or wrong come the end of week 1 on Monday morning when I'm waking up with a hangover from not playing Ja'Marr Chase.
Yeah, it goes alongside the McCaffrey thing where it's like, of course, I'm going to regret every bit of it if McCaffrey goes off for 30 points, like he's very apt to do. But at the same time, Ja'Marr Chase has another alpha on the other side who has a lot easier matchups. So, like in your case, you're probably throwing a little bit extra towards T. Higgins. Higgins is playing. He's playing for that next contract, boo-boo. I mean, he's not going to be back in Bengal land next year. So let's go get that bag, T. T. Higgins is going to be a man on a mission this year. It starts this week where he's very heavily discounted from Chase. And really, if you look at their per game efficiency metrics, it's not that different.
I actually really like Tyler Boyd for this matchup as well. I think Tyler Boyd has an advantageous matchup, although Ja'Marr Chase has been used in the slot a lot more over the past season. Tyler Boyd is still in that role, and they can end up taking advantage of Tyler Boyd's mismatch this week. So I actually have probably more shares of Tyler Boyd than I do Higgins, but I still have both of them pretty heavily owned as a whole in certain matchups, depending on what I'm aiming for. Now, let's go ahead and let's build this lineup. Where are we going to start this time? I have on here, of course, Anthony Richardson as a quarterback that we can start with. I also really like Trevor Lawrence. I like this game. I think that it could be dominant. We talked a little bit about how Calvin Ridley's pricing. I'm not even a Calvin Ridley guy. I don't like Calvin Ridley. Okay, I'm not a Calvin Ridley guy, but his pricing is disconnected with his optimal performance. He could end up taking 2 touchdowns at the house for 100 yards and call it a day. And anybody that plays Calvin Ridley is going to win money regardless, if they stack him with Trevor Lawrence, of course. So do we want to attack this game by any chance? Do you want to get a little bit of shares of this game?
I really do, especially in a single entry where it's not too chalky and it's not too different. Like we're kind of in that happy medium area with a ton of upside. This Jaguars offense is going to be good. So yeah, fire up Sunshine and Ridley, because his pricing looks like he's missed the last 2 years from gambling and injuries.
That's pretty much it. That's probably what it is. He's probably just missed some time because of injuries and gambling. I mean, that is what it is. But again, hey, it's week 1, right?
I can relate. I can relate.
Did you miss a couple years in the NFL due to gambling and injuries? No, Bo, this is like the best time to play Calvin Ridley, right? Because he hasn't played in 2 years. He's fresh, right? And he hasn't taken any hits. Like if this is something where he could wear down as the season goes because he hasn't had football
people are
contact.
afraid of what he's going to look like.
That's fine. He's still going to come out strong in week. If he's not going to look good in week 8, right? I mean, if he's not in shape, he's not going to look good in week 8. In week 1, we're going to get the best possible side of Calvin Ridley, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's roll out. You want to go with the Trevor Lawrence side of things instead of the Anthony Richardson side?
Yeah, didn't we go Richardson on the last one?
Nope, we went with Tua on the last one.
Oh, that's right. Ooh, I like both of them. Richardson's a better value, so we can
by far.
It's still a game stack, so yeah, do the Richardson Ridley. Ooh, yeah, I like that a lot.
And we can run out Richardson naked if we choose to, just butt ass naked, running all by himself.
Yeah, streaking with his green hat.
With his green hat, we're going streaking through the cards and into the gymnasium. Come on, guys, let's go. I love
Bring
that.
Your green hat.
Yeah, bring your green hat, Snoop. Snoop a loop. No, I love that aspect. I love that beginning placement. But now we have to figure out: do we want to run anybody else out with Anthony Richardson? Do we want to take a shot on Joshua Downs or Pittman? Or I mean, we could even take a shot at tight end, possibly, if we want to get really risky.
Oof.
Deion Jackson.
Butt ass naked. Naked. Yeah, this is like full on in the buff Anthony Richardson, like little bro, 13, low voice, neck tattoo, nobody around him.
All right, let's go with that. I don't know what you just said, but we're going that route. All right, Bo. So we have that. Let's focus on, I don't know, do we want to do the JK Dobbins Ravens stack like we discussed?
Yes.
Let's. I mean, Boofy was the one over here in the comments. If you guys,
Boofy was ahead of his time.
Boofy was ahead of his time. He came too early. Okay, he was here too early. Is what I meant to say.
He's probably smoking a cigarette in the corner by now.
Shout out to Boofy over there smoking a cigarette in the corner. Listen, I do love JK Dobbins. I love the Ravens' revamped defense. I think that Kyle Hamilton could end up being the best safety in this league. Possibly that the league has ever seen. Maybe. No, I don't know about that far, but he's going to be very, very, very good.
He's really good. And it still is amazing to me that to this day that the Ravens were able to draft him, because he was my number one overall defensive prospect last year, period. Like all the defensive players that went, he was number one. Kayvon Thibodeau was number 2, and Thibodeau slipped to the Giants, which I didn't see coming either. Yeah, but to get Hamilton where he fell past the top 10 is ridiculous. And now the Ravens are going to be good for another 10 years because of it.
But we're supposed to be doing a DFS show, okay? We're getting off track here, just like we normally do. But yes, we can't do that. People are waiting for their answers, right? People are waiting for these lineups, and plus they're probably waiting for the sleepers.
The Ravens DST is a DFS player.
It is expensive. It's the most expensive defense on the slate, by the way. But we're going to throw them in there because I think they're going to be very low owned, to be honest.
I agree.
Oh, man, this is exciting. We get to play JK Dobbins, the Ravens defense. I'm ready to rock and roll, babe. I'm ready to rock and roll. All right. Let's see what we have now. We're looking here just for the people that are listening. We have Anthony Richardson. I probably should have announced the last lineup, too. My bad for those that are listening. We have JK Dobbins. We have Anthony Richardson, JK Dobbins, Calvin Ridley, and a DST. We still need to build off that. Bo, where do we go next, man? Where do we go? We need help.
You mentioned him before. Keenan Allen.
Oh, so we're still going to play with that game a little bit. We're going to dabble. We're just going to dabble a little bit.
I just need to dip 2 toes into that game and say that the water's just fine. There's going to be lots of points on the board, and Keenan Allen in this offense is going to be completely unstoppable.
I love it, man. I am 100% on board with this pick. You know that I love Keenan Allen. You know that they're going to attack Cater. Like, this is a gem for week 1. This is a babe right here for week 1.
It's a 10.
A total babe. It's a 10 out of 10. Sexy as hell. Keenan Allen for week 1. I love it. Let's right now we're sitting here at 5K, so we're getting a little bit expensive. I feel like we're going to end up having to pay down at tight end to get this to work. We're not going to be able to go up with, and reach for the sky, right? So where do we want to go at tight end so we can kind of plan out the rest of this game or the rest of this build?
Oh, you're not going to like this one, though. You are not going to like this one.
Oh, I got to hear this. I'm ready.
Are you ready? I don't think you are. I really don't think you are ready. But I'm going to go with Hayden Hurst.
I don't mind that.
3K flat. The Atlanta Falcons supposedly improved their secondary. But if we're looking at the Carolina pass catching unit, it's banged up. They got a rookie who got outproduced by another rookie at Ole Miss, Mingo. Jury's still out of Mingo. Thielen's banged up. They really don't have any alphas. Chark is banged up. Everybody's banged up. Bryce Young's got to have to throw to somebody. And Hayden Hurst is too cheap. He's too athletic. He's a really athletic tight end. That's why the Ravens took him in the first round all those years ago. Hayden Hurst is a big athletic guy who can catch the ball, run after the catch. And he's just been overshadowed the last few years. Like, he was in Cincinnati with one of the best receiving corps in the league. He was in Baltimore behind Mark Andrews all those years. He's been overshadowed. He was in Atlanta with Kyle Pitts. Everywhere Hayden Hurst goes, he's good, but overshadowed. There's nobody here to overshadow Hayden Hurst. And Bryce Young, rookie quarterback, he's 5'10". He's going to be looking close by, middle of the field. I think it's a volume pick, in my opinion.
I mean, they don't have anybody healthy over there, right? Chark is out for sure. Adam Thielen's questionable. And I actually bring up somebody in the sleepers that I think is somewhat interesting here in a little bit. But Hayden Hurst is a great pick. Nod to Waterbud. Luke Musgrave was actually somebody that I thought you were going to lean towards. Yes. But with him being a rookie, I don't think that I want to go that route right now for rookie tight end, although I don't hate it. I think that he's somebody that could put up big-time points. He'd be probably my second option behind Hayden Hurst in terms of a value pick at tight end. I like it. I just think that he will end up seeing a little bit too high of ownership. And with our build already, we might end up having the same lineup as a handful of other people, depending on where we go from here. Now, we are at 5,600. We have, or almost 5,700. We have about 3 positions left. So it seems like we're going to end up paying down at running back again, but not too far down. We're probably going to end up in the 5K range, low 5K, maybe high 4s. Where you thinking, Bo? Where you thinking, man?
Going back to how badly I think the Raiders are going to be this in a bad way, I'm going to go with a guy who everybody thought was going to be taking it slow back, who has been healthy since the second week of the preseason, who's been months ahead of in his recovery, who's almost impossible to tackle with one person, and who Sean Payton already said is going to have the Alvin Kamara role. If Alvin Kamara was bigger, faster, tougher, Javonte Williams at 5,700 is my best running back value on this entire slate.
I love it, man. I think that it's a great pick. Samaje Perine does make me nervous, right? But I have Williams in almost Javonte Williams in almost every single one of my lineups so far that I've built, and I built about 10 to 15. I love it. I think that he's great value. I think that he's somebody that can produce. If he gets hot, they're not taking him out. If he gets hot, he's staying hot. Biggest thing is that he adds to it is receptions, right? Even if Jerry Jeudy does go, which I don't see him doing that, but even if he does go, they're not going to play him on a huge snap share. They're probably going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets because they want to run the ball anyways. So if he ends up getting involved in that and they end up setting up screens for him, right? They end up running Marvin Mims on go routes every single play, and they play Cortland Sutton 15 yards down the field. It's going to create a lot of screen opportunities for the Broncos to capitalize on. And I think that Javonte Williams could end up being a massive value at that point. I'm on board with you with Javonte Williams. Now, we didn't actually save any money on that. We actually lost $16 per player that we have to spend. So where do we want to go here? We've got a wide receiver. We've got a flex right now. We're looking at Anthony Richardson, JK Dobbins, Javonte Williams, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, Hayden Hurst, and the Ravens DST. Where are we going from here?
I'm going to save you some money and throw out one of my sleepers. Are you okay with that?
Fine. Let him in on one of the sleepers because we're about to dive all into sleepers, right? Sleepers are my favorite part of this show.
So take it for what it's worth. I told you before the show who this is, but why is Elijah Moore only 3,800? I mean, it's a mystery to me. And so far, nobody's really been on him that I've read or heard about. But I think there's a lot of talent on that offense and a lot of things to prove on that offense for Cleveland, especially against their division rivals week 1. Elijah Moore is going to show out. He's going to play a lot out of the backfield. Like Jerome Ford, he missed a lot of the preseason. But guess what? Guess who we saw running the Kareem Hunt role in the preseason in his stead? It was Elijah Moore. What am I missing something here? 3,800 for a guy who is absolutely dominant as a rookie. He got doghoused by some trash offensive coordinator in New York last year. And now he's on a new team with a new quarterback who's actually pretty good, an offensive mind in Stefanski who's really good. They're going to find a way to give their best athletes the ball. And that's why Elijah Moore ran out of the backfield this preseason, because they want to give him the ball.
Yep, they just want to get it in his hands.
It's a huge misstep for a guy of that caliber, an athlete of that skill set, to not get touches. And 3,800, it's a no-brainer.
All right, so here's the deal, okay? We're approaching 52 minutes right now, okay? We still got to cover sleepers, so we got to speed this up. They told me if I go over an hour, because I told them I would probably do 2-hour shows. They said if you go over an hour, you're fired, okay? You're done. So I cannot do a 2-hour show, although I would love to talk DFS all night with you. Let's go ahead and find out this last flex position, because I do agree with you. Let's dive into some sleepers real quick and try and build this last lineup as fast as humanly possible.
Deal.
All right. Do we want to go with Waddle to combat the Keenan Allen, or do we want to go down to T. Higgins, who we brought up earlier as somebody that we want to target because we're fading? Well, I'm fading Jamar Chase.
Well, it looks like you have 7,500 left.
Yep.
Okay, so we can't get AJ Brown. So I'm with Waddle. I like Waddle a little bit more than T. Higgins upside wise. But I mean, if you feel good about Higgins, then that's fine. I don't feel bad about Higgins at all. Waddle is a great pick, especially playing off the Keenan Allen pick, like you said. Game stack, that game is going to be huge. Getting the right guys from that game is going to be the key to winning on this slate.
All right, so we're going to try and run through this last spot. I do agree with you, by the way, and I really love A.J. Brown. I want to play him in this upcoming one, but I want to run him out by himself because I love A.J. Brown for this based off of his man-to-man ability to beat man-to-man, I should say. Mm-hmm. But let's go with sleepers real quick. I think that Zay Jones on the outside up against a weak secondary is an option. I think the Terrace Marshall could be a thing with Chark and Theilen out, or Shenault, whichever way you want to go on that. But I think it's worth at least taking a shot because they're likely going to have to pass. I think that Sam Howell is that dude who you guys need to get into a few lineups this week up against Arizona, up against a weak offense or defensive line, where the Commanders also have a very suspect offensive line. So it should create opportunities for him to run. We know how valuable that is, especially for DFS. And last but not least, my big one is Jayden Reed, because most people, when they're thinking about rookie wide receivers, they're thinking about Marvin Mims, right? Marvin Mims. Well, he's going to see high ownership, most likely, if Jerry Jeudy doesn't play. I don't want anything to do with Marvin Mims. I'll take Jayden Reed, the other rookie, at I think 3K or 3,100, who's taking a primary role, who Christian Watson's out with an injury, right? Dobbs is out with an injury. Well, potentially. He's questionable right now, I believe. Bo, who's your guy?
Well, besides Elijah Moore, Jayden Reed, I'm fully on board with. I'm going to go with the other rookie wide receiver who's up at 4,900, but Jackson Smith-Njigba, clean bill of health with the broken wrist. Nobody's going to play him. Rookie wide receiver, supposedly third in the pecking order behind Lockett and DK Metcalf. I say that's all BS. I think that Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to get 8 to 10 targets game one in this and pay off at 4,900 pretty easily against the Rams, who are awful in the middle of the field. And I mean They're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL at covering the middle of the field again this season. It's going to start right here with one of the best rookie wide receivers we've seen in the last 5 years, period. We're talking about everybody wants to compare him to a slot receiver. He's up in that Diggs, Chase, Jefferson tier for me as prospects. Jackson Smith-Njigba right off the bat. And then going down to a little lower running back tier. Like I already said, I want to get a little bit of Sean Tucker, a little bit of Jerome Ford, but let's get really nasty. Really nasty.
Don't get too gross.
Kenny Gainwell, 4,200.
Oh, that's not too gross. I like that.
Okay, so I can get grosser.
No, don't get too gross. We got to go. We got a show we got to get off of. So let's build this lineup.
Kenny Gainwell.
I like Kenny Gainwell.
4,200. Yeah.
Up against a suspect New England defense. All right.
Hella sus.
I saw you get excited when I threw out there. When I just threw it out there talking about Sam Howell. How you feeling about that? Are you going to play him? Do we want to play him? Do we want to build a lineup that's starting at 4,900 with the quarterback?
Hell yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know why? Because I predicted in my Pecan Takes, my hot takes article for Fantasy Pros, I predicted that he would be a top 10 quarterback this week.
I love that, man. I'm all on board at 4,900. I think that he's going to absolutely do that. Let's go to wide. Do we want to play Gibson with him? Stack that, and then also stack the wide receiver?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So we have Gibson. We already played. And we're going to go ahead and run out Terry McLaurin as well. Oh, all right.
Or Jahan Dotson if you're feeling frisky, Jahan Dotson. But with the way we're doing value here, McLaurin's the pick.
Yeah, and honestly, like people are going to be playing Jahan Dotson a lot more often. We're going to see lower ownership on Terry McLaurin, who had the injured tag throughout the entire week. Turns out he wasn't. If you were watching any of the practice highlights, he did not look injured whatsoever. He's fine. And when you look at what Jahan Dotson did in the preseason game where they played up until halftime up against Baltimore, Jahan Dotson got almost all of his targets after Terry McLaurin went down with an injury. He got targeted in 5 plays on that drive after McLaurin went down, who got targeted in 2 or 3 plays on that drive. Jahan Dotson didn't see a single target on that drive until McLaurin went down. So we know who the alpha is in that offense. Don't bet against Terry McLaurin. He's a guy that's proved a lot of people wrong. 3rd-round pick, bad quarterback play. He's still produced when he needs to produce. Terry McLaurin is that dude this week. He should see the volume. And there's no way that 7 touchdowns on 61 targets or whatever it was is sustainable for Jahan Dotson. So let's move over to what do you want to do? Running back, wide receiver? What are we thinking?
Let's do a running back. Are you feeling another Javonte Williams in this lineup, or are you feeling somebody a little bit more expensive? Because we haven't. Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like Jayden Reed?
8.5.
All right, let's put Jayden Reed in there real quick, and let's see how much salary we have left over for that, and we'll put a placeholder defense in for now. So Jayden Reed, we'll go with the Commanders as a placeholder defense. Dude, I mean, we're sitting there with $7K per player. Let's pay up a tight end. You want to do Hawkinson at tight end just because? I mean, it's still going to save us money.
We might as well.
We're left with $7,300 per player remain on this. For those listening, we have Sam Howell, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, Jayden Reed, TJ Hawkinson, and the Commanders defense. We still need a running back, a wide receiver, and a flex position. So where are we going to spend our excess of Dolores?
I think we're still going to have some left over because I want to throw JK Dobbins in there again.
let's play AJ Brown because we both said we want AJ Brown, right?
Yes, for sure.
All right, let's get AJ Brown in this matchup.
Yes.
And we're left with 7,100 per person. So if we throw JK Dobbins in here,
we can have whoever we want at flex, basically.
Yes. I love this. This is too much fun. Keenan Allen is where it starts. We want to play another one with Keenan Allen?
Yep.
Is that it? Is that the answer?
Yeah, you got 30 seconds or you're fired.
Oh, God. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get fired at least one time this year, but probably closer to 10.
Yeah. How you get fired in week 1?
God, man, my job is gone. I got 30 seconds before I'm fired. Please make sure the next time the Podfather's on the show to say, don't fire Chase. We love the big tilt. I need his DFS advice. I need the people that are going to come on the show. Please don't fire him for running the show over. And guess what? I'll have my job safe. My job will be safe at that point. Make sure you guys also hit like, hit subscribe over there on the channel. Make sure you guys also leave us plenty of positive reviews on the podcast. So right now, to finish out this lineup, because I didn't read the last two, we have Sam Howell, Antonio Gibson, JK Dobbins, Terry McLaurin, Jaden Reed, AJ Brown, TJ Hawkinson, Keenan Allen, and the Commanders defense. Let's hit enter. All right, man. How you feeling? How you feeling about these lineups?
I have a feeling your bankroll is going to be building.
Hey, if it's building, man, I'm going to cut you in. I'm cutting you in. Some of the profits, of course. And maybe we'll do something special for the listeners at the end of the season, depending on what we're sitting at. To that point. But yeah, let's let everyone know where to find you, Bo, and let's get out of here.
Oh, you can find me at Fantasy Pros. I'm a featured writer there, as well as betting pros during the golf season. But it's football season now, so redraft, Dynasty, Devy, DFS. You can find me all there. We're going to do the Chalk Blocked show tomorrow night at 9 Eastern. On the Nimble with Numbers YouTube page. Make sure you check that out. Chalk Block, the world's sexiest DFS show for now. We'll run that back every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
All right, it's pretty sexy, but let's pump the brakes on that, okay? Not the sexiest. You still have the big tilt.
We've been claiming that since 2021.
God, you're probably right. I love it.
Yeah.
No,
it's because of Nimble. I mean, it's like if it was just me on a show, it'd definitely not be the same.
No, if Nimble with Numbers wasn't on the show, then I would actually challenge you guys for that. But he's on the show, so there's no way. He outranks me. He's the sexiest person alive. I love Nimble with Numbers. Make sure you guys go check out all my stuff over there at FF_intervention on Twitter. Big shout out to everybody in the chat tonight. Really appreciate you guys. Hope you all win a bunch of money. And of course, keep in mind there is no shame in using a pen and pencil to take notes.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.